Welcome to Above the Noise Commercial Aviation Edition, the Viasat original podcast where we talk to people whose lives happen in motion. Entrepreneurs, athletes, explorers, creators who spend just as much time in the air as they do on the ground and know how vital being connected at every step of the way is. Today, our guest joins us from the world of technology and marketing. He has spent the last 2 decades teaching people how the internet really works, co-founding Moz and SparkToro. And he's also one of the leading educators in digital technology. Rand Fishkin, welcome to Above the Noise.
Oh my gosh, Samantha, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're an entrepreneur now, but talk to us a little bit more about how you got into it and what it means to you to be an entrepreneur.
One of my favorite things in life is working with friends and seeing their projects come to fruition. We got to help contribute and fund to musical of one of the actors we're having dinner with tonight, which was incredible, and help invest in friends' companies. I tell people I love being the first money in because I love when someone can't get a yes from anyone else. And then I want to be the yes.
You want to be that first
yes.
yes.
I love being the first yes, and supporting people, especially people I care about, more so than something that I think is necessarily going to make tons of money. I think that the only real universal advice that I try to give people is, if you possibly can, work to first build something that is sustainable. You can always go for, the home run, the venture capital $1 billion after. I remember distinctly one of the biggest pieces of advice a friend of mine gave me who ran a very successful startup in Boston. And he said, Rand, when you get your first offer to sell, even if it's small, you should take it. You should take it because that first chunk of money will allow you to take a step back and be more thoughtful and not panic every day and feel this intense stress and pressure. I should have listened to him. I really should have.
You are known as, and I love your titles, you are known as the Wizard of Moz, hysterical. My favorite is the Godfather of SEO, but your beginning, like your origin story, is really messy.
Yeah.
And like your mom is involved. So take us back to like before you were this success, building that success, and why was it almost a train wreck?
So I'm a college dropout. I don't have a degree, which I know is popular in tech, but actually statistically it's dangerous and I don't recommend it to young people. Yeah. But I dropped out of college and started working with my mom, Jillian, at this marketing consultancy. And I was, I was the back end guy. I was building websites, designing them, but I wasn't good at it. And the business did not do very well. In fact, we were going deeply into debt, despite paying ourselves next to nothing. We did this silly thing where we were like, oh, we should have a fancy tower with office space so that we can impress clients, and we should exhibit at trade shows and conferences to try and get business. And we selected a lot of clients who didn't pay, all that kind of stuff. So a few years into this business, probably like 2005, we had about $150,000 of debt. And we stopped being able to make the minimum payments. So that quickly shot up to, $500,000 of debt.
Oh boy.
And it was really sketchy. Like my mom and my dad were together until my father passed last year. And she had never told him that we had any debt. And of course, I didn't tell him either.
Oh.
And so every day at 3 p.m., 3:15, she had to run home to my parents' house, check the mail, make sure that there were no incriminating bills, no credit notices. Debt collectors came to my girlfriend's door, now my wife. I don't know how they even figured out that it was her apartment and I was living there. I couldn't get a lease because I had terrible credit. Just really sketchy early times.
Wow. I mean, when you talk to when people talk to entrepreneurs like yourself, and now we see you in a very different stage of your life, one of accomplishment and success, you can easily like look back at those rough times as kind of romantic, but there is really nothing romantic about what you went through. How has that really manifested itself in what you do today? Are you a little more cautious, or how did you slowly turn what just could have been the beginning of the end into something that is happening now?
I think the biggest impact for me is empathy, right? When people, a lot of people in my network and world are not wealthy. They don't have money. They're struggling. Their political opinions and social opinions reflect this. And I feel like I have empathy for I know what it's like to not be able to afford groceries and have to rely on somebody else and, have no paychecks for 2 months at a time and just be struggling. And especially the psychological impact, right? It's not just the day-to-day problems, like your car breaks. Well, you can't afford to get it fixed. So you start taking the bus, which makes you late, and it just compounds. And so I think, I have just so much empathy for people who are going through financial struggles, and that I don't want to project onto other people in the technology world or entrepreneurs, but my sense is that might be a good thing for more of them to have.
Yeah, absolutely. You have empathy, but you also have something that created your success, which is, we couldn't afford to pay for someone to do it anymore, so we're going to have to do it ourselves. And so you learned this whole new world that was happening literally as it was unfolding. You were learning about SEO. Explain SEO. I'm sure our audience, everyone knows what it is, but just to keep us on an even playing field, like what is it and what did it mean to you and how did it start to turn the tides for your future?
Yeah, I got into SEO for exactly the reason you talked about, which was we could no longer afford to pay our SEO subcontractors. Yeah. And for folks who don't know, SEO is search engine optimization. That acronym is now far more inclusive of all sorts of platforms and places where people might find information on the internet. But when I was doing it, it was Google and Microsoft and Yahoo and for people who might remember old Hotbot and Lycos and InfoSeek and Dogpile and all these early search engines.
Oh my gosh. I'm like going back 20 years right now. That's incredible.
Gen Xers,
exactly.
Look it up.
Exactly.
So basically in all these search engines, lots of people, businesses, organizations of all kinds wanted their web pages and websites and information to come up at the top so that when people perform these searches, they would see your information or your brand first. And that practice was not well regarded in the early 2000s. Almost every organization thought it was spammy and manipulative, and it was. Oh, okay. There was a lot of sketchy operators. There was a lot of secrecy in that world. People who practiced SEO believed that their competitive advantage was keeping what they did from anybody else. I thought, if this information was open and everyone could find it and discover it, the playing field would be fair. There wouldn't be this, manipulative, black hat, underground, people's businesses wouldn't get taken advantage of by shady operators. And so I started this blog called, at the time, SEO Moz, and then eventually Moz, to try and open source information about how search engines really worked. And it was through that teaching and that creation of content that we became well known and we became sought after in this upcoming field. As part of teaching people about marketing and digital marketing, technology and entrepreneurship, you get invited to a lot of events, and some of them are in Bulgaria or South Africa or Portugal or all over the place. And I think that experience makes you a little more worldly, wiser, also a little more empathetic, right? To see perspectives outside of your own country and culture.
You have traveled a lot, and you have a few kind of theories about the cities that you visit. You really try to figure out what's the soul, right? What makes this city unique in like a 1 or 2 words?
My wife and I have this sort of shorthand, 1-word descriptor for the thing that people value in a city the most. And I suspect that you and all of our listeners and viewers will resonate with this. that Portland, Oregon, is a city where the soul of the city is, what artistic thing are you involved in?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah.
Seattle is very, what's your outdoor activity? Los Angeles is, what have you been in?
That's so true.
Right?
Or is
and recently,
yeah.
what have you been in lately? Like they're not so cool. San Diego is, where do you surf, or which beach do you go to?
Okay, all right.
Boston is, where did you go to school?
Yeah, definitely. Education, big in Boston.
Education is huge.
So Rand, if you could sit next to, on a plane, your 20-year-old self,
Oof.
and he's nervous, and he's really failing big time. He's in debt, doesn't know what he's going to do with the rest of his life. What would you tell him?
One of the things that I would tell me, to do is absolutely get married to that girl you start dating at 21. which
yeah,
is not advice that I usually give to young people. Like most of your early 20s are meant for romantic mistakes.
Yeah.
And yet, it's just been an amazingly beautiful relationship.
To go for it.
Yeah, go for it. Absolutely. Yeah. Professionally, I think the biggest advice I would give myself is, before you start your own company, maybe try working for a few other people. Even if you hate it, even if the experience is terrible, I think the cold start problem was so hard for me. I had no context of what it meant to own a business and run a business and try to grow. No context for what I liked and didn't like until I tried it and failed. And I think this is part of the reason that Moz took so long to get to a place that I thought I wanted, only to discover, I don't want this.
But you spend a lot of time traveling, going to conferences. You spend time sort of what I call in the transient world of hotel lobbies, hotel rooms, airport terminals, up in the sky. What is your routine being up in the air?
We don't have this rule anymore because of satellite connectivity in the air. But for probably the first 10 years of social media, Geraldine and I had this rule that you don't post anything, a blog post, send a bulk email, put up a tweet, a Facebook post 6 hours before a flight.
Oh.
Because otherwise something could happen in the interim. You won't be able to edit it. You won't be able to respond, react. The press reaches out. Someone takes something out of context and you can't provide that context. And those social media platforms can latch on to the wrong thing and you can go viral for all the wrong reasons.
That's so true.
And so I will say that, for as much as people complain and they say, oh, I like to have a break when I'm in the air, which is great for them.
Yeah, good for you.
I love being able to just pop on my phone or my laptop and say, wait a minute, hang on, well, let's just fix this up before. The peace of mind is amazing.
That's so true. You get to meet the moment as it happens.
Yeah.
And then when you land, you're still you. I always feel like that way. Before satellite connectivity, I felt like I was in the air and it was this re-entry into Earth.
Oh, sure.
And the re-entry was bumpy because it was just all of a sudden, 12 hours, things were still moving except me. And I was coming into something hot. Yeah. And, and just it was going to have to be something that I would have to immediately deal with. Like the stress level was so high. And now because of that continuum, it's a lot less stressful. That's for sure.
The cortisol of opening up your email and your social when you land
exactly.
used to be a real thing. I'm sure your little heart rate monitor could see the spike.
You should have had those
pressure
on airplanes, right? And everyone ding, 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 ding.
Pilots are looking like, gosh, everyone's really stressed after the landing. Shoot. It was smooth. I don't know what happened.
What did I do? I was fine. It seemed fine to me. So you're in the air. What is the work that needs to happen while you're flying to and fro?
I think obviously communication with other parties is a big one, and team management. But for me, I do a lot of research and publishing data from that research.
Okay.
Sort of telling people how parts of the internet work. When I'm in the air and I have Excel there, I'm trying to build these graphs and I'm chatting to the research analysts and I'll be analyzing the data and going like, okay, wait a minute. So the percent of people who use Google on a mobile device versus a desktop device means that the rate of zero-click searches, like the searches that stay on Google and you never leave, because what was Alan Rickman's best movie? And then they like pop up a little box with all the movies in there.
Truly, madly, deeply. There, I said it.
Galaxy Quest? Okay, I don't know. Yeah, all right. We can hash this out later. So I write up these research reports and do a lot of my work when I'm on flights. I don't know what it is. Something about it gets me in the mood to do deep research.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Do you think it's because we are so connected now that everyone's sort of seeing the possibilities of being in control of their destiny?
Well, the beautiful thing about connectivity, social media, modern internet, even tools like AI, is that it has reduced the friction, massively reduced the friction that is required to get up and running. Hey, do I need to file a state of California business department license in order to be able to accept sales online in California? And you can ask Google or ChatGPT and you can get the correct answer and resources to help you with that and how to file. And wait, this form looks really confusing. Can you walk me through that? All of that is possible and wonderful. It has also reduced the friction of finding customers and an audience, which is a great thing. The only downside here is competition massively increased. Right? There's so much competition for attention. And so finding out how to be signal amidst noise, I think is the new barrier to entry for entrepreneurs. And, obviously that's something that we, at least 2 of my 3 companies try to help people do. Right. But it's quite a mountain to climb to try and get attention in a world where attention is so heavily competed for. Yeah.
Your advice has always been, from the very beginning, is to get that SEO, even in AI, is to be your most authentic self. And I know when I've given people advice and they say, how can I do what you do? I'm just like, you have to be yourself. And no one wants to be themselves. Like no one can trust that what they know is good enough, right? They think that's all these bells and whistles.
I mean, Samantha, I do feel like I wish that was the best advice I could give people. But in the world of monetized attention, my sense is these algorithms don't necessarily optimize for authenticity, right?
Oh, they don't? Oh my gosh. What?
Look,
20 years of my professional life has been a waste. Really? Oh my gosh, I'm hearing it for the first time myself.
Okay,
so seriously?
All right.
So, oh my gosh. And I know authentic, that's such a word that just is so overused, but really? Like if I'm just like myself, it doesn't mean anything.
I mean, if Alan Rickman is himself, different story. But if we're just ourselves.
So what is it?
I think incentives govern behavior. And the incentives of the platforms that own and control attention, whether we're talking about AI or search engines or social media, those incentives are, how do we show more growth to shareholders? And that one metric above everything else has been the thing that's helped me understood, why does Google put these links here and those links there? Why does ChatGPT gives these kinds of answers? Why does Meta put these posts in my Instagram Discover page and not these other ones? And that does not exclusively correlate with authenticity.
Okay. Yeah.
That being said, I think it's nearly impossible. I agree with you that it's nearly impossible to build a business in a sector that you don't care about.
Right.
You're not interested in, you don't have passion.
You're not coming from a sense of your own self, of what you feel is important. Yeah.
No, the people who have the most success in almost any space are not exclusively there for the page views and the money. They care about it on a deeper level.
Yeah.
So that is a qualifying, limiting, demand before you can have that success. Will it guarantee success? Probably not.
No,
not
I
in
totally
isolation.
agree. Yeah.
But
okay, I feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
When you work with companies and clients, how do you make sure that the human always comes through?
A part of the way that you work ethically is to not create an incentive structure that forces you to act unethically. A friend of a friend invented an ultrasonic chef's knife. I don't know if you've ever seen videos of ultrasonic food cutters,
No.
like in factories.
Okay.
They basically, you'll have a giant cake and it'll be cut so that when you go to the grocery store, there's these perfect clean cuts. And obviously, the knife didn't come out like it comes out at home where
Yes.
stuff sticks to the food. There's lots of uses for these. So my buddy Scott, now he's my friend, is watching these videos of ultrasonic food cutters. And he thinks to himself, could that fit, could the whole battery and the whole thing that powers the ultrasonic blade, could that fit into the handle of a chef's knife? Could I miniaturize that technology? And he's a culinary inventor. And so he gets a patent, develops this technology, makes a prototype. He was friends with my wife, Geraldine, through the food world. And Scott, I remember, showed it to us once. He brought it over to our house. He shows us this ultrasonic chef's knife, which fits in your hand. Just incredible. Like, it is considerably sharper than the world's sharpest knife because the blade vibrates 40,000 times a second, with an ultrasonic current.
I see what you mean with the sonic current,
Yeah.
right? What's
Like
in the
a toothbrush.
toothbrush?
Yes,
Now it's in our
except-
knife.
Anyway, all of this, long story short, is to say he gets the patent. He goes and pitches a bunch of food technology companies. One of them makes him an offer for a huge amount of money to buy the patent and the technology from him. And then a few days before the sale's about to close, they pull out. They pull out of the deal, this had happened to me once before, a long time ago.
You know the feeling.
I know the feeling. And so Scott and I really, really bond over this experience. And I encourage Scott to use the funding structure and documents that SparkToro pioneered as a response to my experience at Moz with venture to build a different kind of company and to raise money from private investors in a way that incentivized good behavior from everyone and didn't put a lot of controls in the hands of the outsiders, let him control his destiny, let him become a small, profitable business. I'm really proud to say that I think 2 months ago, the knife finally launched and it sold out in 30 days.
my
Like the
gosh.
YouTube video went super viral because you can just see how crazy amazing it is. In any case, those documents, the documents that we created for SparkToro were open sourced. And now I think more than a dozen companies have used the funding structure that SparkToro developed to fund their own businesses in this way that doesn't demand you to have venture style investment or venture style returns to build a successful business. It's sort of redefining what does success mean?
Exactly.
You don't have to be a $1 billion company or die trying. You can be a small, profitable, successful business, even in tech.
You talk about empathy, and this is what I really find fascinating about you, because you have all these titles, but I would add humanist to that.
Oh my gosh.
Because you really do. We are in a world where it seems, from my point of view, humans versus machines.
Yeah.
And you are clearly on the side of the human. Well, thank you. I mean, from near bankruptcy to running successful businesses that really help people, your story really encapsulates what Above the Noise is all about. It's rising above and still being a human the entire way. Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha.
And to those of you listening, wherever you're flying to next, take a moment to notice the city beneath you. Could be trying to tell you something. This is Above the Noise.